Hello, I'm Daniel Schremer. Today I'd like to speak about what happened next with David. Well, David became a great king. He is one of the kings that we know most of than any other. And one day, Nathan comes to him and says to him, "I have to tell you this story, my king." And David says, "Go on, tell me, what's the story?" Well, Nathan says, there was a very rich man, and this man had sheep and cattle. And one day, a traveler came to him and said, "Let's have a meal together." And the rich man, who had a neighbor that was very poor, unlike the rich man, he had one lamb. And this lamb was the only thing that he loved. He cared for it so much, it slept in his bed. It grew him as if it was his own child. It ate from his food. It was everything for him. And the rich man, instead of taking one of his own lambs, which he had many of, took that man's lamb and cooked it as a meal for his guest. And they feasted on it. "What?" David said. "This is a terrible story. This man must die. This man will pay for his behavior." And then Nathan said, "Well, David, you are that man, because you took Bathsheba from Uriah Hittite, and you let him go to war and die." And this teaches us another very special thing in all of David's story. This is not the only place that this style of teaching happens. And what can we take from this story? Well, we can take the fact that it's very hard to criticize someone. It's very hard to say things that the other side might not accept easily or might not take the right way. And this is the way to tell it. We say the things that we want to say and the way that we want to criticize someone, and we use an example of someone else, something that the person listening does not contribute to his own deeds. And he can talk about in a philosophical way that he doesn't understand that we're actually talking about him. We're actually talking about his own behavior, and then it's easier for him to react and say the truth and be honest with what he believes. And only after he says his opinion, and only after he gives his story, and we feel that now he knows that we know what he believes in, and we have it on paper, or we have it on a tape recorder, or we have his reaction to the story, only then do we tell him that we were talking about him. Only then do we tell him that we think he is the one who did wrong. And only then do we criticize him for his behavior. And then he can really accept what we're saying as truth, as something universal, as something that is not only to this specific person, but a behavior as a whole. What kind of behaviors do we want to see? How do we want to teach the next generations, our employees, our friends, our family to behave? What is important to us and to them? And we don't waste the time to just argue a stupid, empty argument. So I wish that you would use the same methods that you can learn from David's story in your own life and in your own negotiations. I'm Daniel Schremer, and I will see you in my next